Hi, my name is Sarah Wickert, and for my diversity field experience, I will be doing an overview of the Hmong culture. I will begin by explaining the origins of the Hmong. I went to the We Are Hmong Minnesota exhibit in the Minnesota History Center. I interviewed two Hmong women, and I will talk about the Hmong ancient roots come from China. In the 18th century, the Qing dynasty was in power. There was a lot of oppression and killings of the Hmong. The repressive economy and cultural reform by the Chinese government of the Qing dynasty led to armed conflict, which eventually led to a mass migration of the Hmong population to Southeast Asia or to what is now Laos. Hmong came to the U.S. as refugees, being persecuted and hungry. In 1976, the first wave of Hmong immigrants began to arrive in the United States to escape hunger and persecution. In 1982, a second wave of immigration came to the United States and lasted over 4 years. The Lutheran Church is very involved in the relocating process. Many came to such states as California, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Minnesota has the highest concentration of Hmong population. In the 2010 U.S. Census stated that there was 66,000 ethnic Hmong in Minneapolis-St. Paul, giving it the largest urban Hmong population in the world. One of the places I visited was the Minnesota History Museum, where they had an exhibit called We Are Hmong. Here I learned that there are 18 Hmong clans. All members of a clan recognize that they are related by a common ancestor. To support the clan structure and receive the support of the clan, the Hmong are concentrated in geographic locations throughout the country, with the largest being in St. Paul, Minneapolis area of Minnesota. I also learned that Hmong didn't have a written language. I found out that they did. Later, the Qing dynasty had caused a previous Hmong writing system to die out when it stated that the death penalty would be imposed on those who wrote it down. A Hmong spiritual leader came in 1959 up with a written language called the Pua, which is a unique 81 written writing system. In Hmong, there is also no word for LGBT. I also interviewed two women. Hmong women. I asked similar questions but changed them a bit different as circumstances were different. Just on a side note, I work with these two women in a company, and the majority of the people who I work with and serve for this company are Hmong. The first woman I interviewed, her name was Ong, and she works at Handy Help as a court clerk. She's married. The first question I asked was, where are you from and what was your childhood like? First thing out of Ong's mouth was not good. I had no childhood. She explained how she was born in Laos and grew up during the Vietnam War. She said her and her family had no place to stay and they spent their time hiding every day, finding a place to stay from one mountain to another. She stated as she grew up in the woods. She said they were always in fear of their life. I asked her what is different now than from before. Education for women and equal rights among women in education. Now, she said there are big changes in education. There's opportunity for women to get a job and to get paid. Also difference is domestic violence. Before, it was okay for a man to hit a woman and a child in their own way, whether it was with a belt or a stick. What has stayed the same? She said respect for elders. I asked her to give an example of a Hmong tradition, and she gave an example of Hmong wedding. She said right before the wedding they use a rooster, and it has to be a rooster, not a chicken. Put around the bride and groom's head and welcome bride into the family. I also asked her what is important in the Hmong culture, according to her. And she said it's important to keep the family together and to respect the parent. She said it's also important to care for her parents just like they cared for her at birth. And she said this is big among the culture. I also asked her what makes her proud to be Hmong. Ong said her parents raised her well. Ong also said she is not always proud to be Hmong due to how Hmong men look down among women. The second woman I interviewed, her name was Maider. She is 24 years old. She stated how she wanted to get a master's degree in nursing, and she has a degree in psychology. I began asking her the first question, which is where she was born and how her childhood was. She said she was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, and grew up here. She grew up within the Hmong community, surrounded only by and speaking only Hmong. She went to a mixed school, but continued to play around only Hmong children. She had 7 siblings and relatives and cousins. She said her family practiced shamanism instead of church, going every month or so. She had a happy childhood and it wasn't that strict. They spoke English only in schools. Second question I asked was what was the changes or differences between the older culture and younger culture that she noticed. She stated that the young don't want to get married, at least not until they're older. My daughter, though she has 3 children with her significant other, is not married to them. She stated that the older generation got married when they were 14 years old. Now some wait until they're 18, if at all. She felt that the older generation are more traditional, not as open to American ways, and have more expectations on the young. She felt the young are more open-minded, willing to try new things. She said now women have more power, with more women going for education and having better jobs. They have more say in the household. Men are having less education than women. I asked her what has stayed the same, and she stated that women still have the role of being the caretaker to the household and to the kids, though the men are stepping up to help out. Next question I asked is, how important is being Hmong in your life? She responded, new generation is trying to exclude Hmong culture. My dear states she wants to pass it down in the history to her kids, the traditional clothing, food, the language. She said America is just land. Sir, what makes you proud being Hmong? She said my language. She said who we are with influence how you speak, your accents, your thoughts, and your communication. I interviewed them both. We discussed shamanism. My dad and Ang both practice shamanism. Shamanism means believing in spirits. There are 2 dimensions that the shamans believe in, here and the spirit world. When the shamans work, they do what is called spirit calling. They cover themselves to block out what is going on in this world. Another person spots them as the shaman jumps and calls to the person's spirits, or the spirits in the spirit world. The shaman are said to be able to talk to the dead. When the shaman speaks to the spirit, they have no control over their body. They have several kinds of spirit callings. An example is sick calling, where they go into the spirit world to try to get the spirit of a sick person who is lost to come back to the person. The shaman only cure the spiritual ill that a doctor cannot cure. Other spirit callings are marriage callings for such things as arguing, blessing calling, where you call upon spirits to bless and sweep away omens for a good year, as well as wedding and birth blessing callings. Shamans also believe that past lives affect present lives. I did my presentation on the Hmong. Thank you.